What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Gary, and welcome to the third episode of the Lightning Web Component Masterclass, where today you and I are going to be talking about HTML. We'll figure out what it is, when to use it, why it's important, and, of course, we'll write some HTML together. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Lightning Web Component Masterclass after a far too long break. In this episode, we are going to be talking about HTML. We'll figure out what it is, when to use it, why to use it. And of course, we'll be creating an example together and a Lightning Web Component of our own. We'll write some HTML in it, and we'll get to see how our browser interprets that HTML and presents it to us, which is always a good time, in my opinion. But before we get into everything related to HTML, make sure if you actually enjoy this video to like it, because when you do, it helps it get out to more people just like yourself that want to learn about this stuff for free too. So you enjoy the video, like it, and if you really love it, subscribe. Now let's get back to the good stuff. So what is HTML? HTML is basically what we need to write and provide to our web browser when it lands on a page, a web page that we've created, to inform the web browser of how we would like our page structured, right? So if there was no HTML on a web page, if there was no HTML sent to your browser on a web page, nothing would be there. The browser wouldn't have any idea what to render, you know? So HTML, or Hypertext Markup language, is a way for us to provide our browser with the structure of our web page that we'd like to display. As far as what Hypertext Markup language refers to, or why it's called that, you can kind of read it here, right, in the Mozilla web docs. Hypertext is referring to links that connect web pages to one another. In HTML, so hypertext is the HT in HTML. The M stands for markup, which is what we use to denote our elements in the page. So it's a markup language. Actually, HTML is based off of what I think it's called the standard generalized markup language, is what HTML kind of sprang from, which was a way to structure documents, I believe. It's been a while since I looked at it. Anyway, so that's what it stands for, and then the L is just language, which is not super important. So HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, it's a way for us to build the structure of our web page to send to our browser so our browser knows what to render. And we went over that a whole lot more in the previous episode when we talked about the DOM. So if you don't know how the browser interprets that and produces the DOM, the document object model, definitely go watch the last episode. Cool. So we have a general understanding of what HTML is. It's our way as developers to tell our browsers what we would like to render. Now, how does that, more importantly, translate to a Lightning Web Component? How are you, as a Lightning Web Component developer, going to, utilize HTML? So, to figure that out, we're going to write some HTML together. So, if you don't already have it open, open up Visual Studio Code. If you've never used Visual Studio Code before, you're confused what this is, you're completely uncomfortable with what you're seeing in front of you, don't worry. I've got a tutorial for it. I'll link it up above, and you can click it, go check it out, and then once you've installed Visual Studio Code and connected it to your Salesforce Org, come back and we'll finish this tutorial together. Cool. So I have created a Lightning Web Component after, connecting Visual Studio Code to my Salesforce org. If you're not familiar with how to actually create a Lightning Web Component, that's okay. I'll show you really quick. You can hit Control-Shift-P if you're on a Windows computer. If you're on a Mac, you'd hit Command-Shift-P. And you will run the command sfdx create Lightning Web Component. And then it's going to ask you for the file name for your Lightning Web Component, which there are only two important rules for when you name your Lightning Web Component. You have to have the first letter be a lowercase, and if you want to use a special character, the only one you can use is an underscore. No spaces, nothing like that. So then you'll create it. We'll just say, like, just so you see how this works, demo LWC, like that. Actually, I don't want to do that. Demo LWC like that. And then I'll give it a directory. Guess I already have a demo LWC. So let me just cool. And that's all you do. You just hit enter a couple times. It'll be here. And that's that. When you create a Lightning Web Component, since I believe this is the first time we've created one together, you will see there are 3 files. It's going to create a folder for you. So we see LWC example. It's going to create 3 files for you. And if you're in Visual Studio Code, it's going to create a just test file for you too, but don't worry about that yet. We need to work in the HTML file that it generates. So you're going to double click on the LWC example HTML file. And in here, we're going to go over some HTML. So if you have ever worked in another, I've got to move my guitar. It's like echoing or something. It's freaking me out. Anyway, if you've ever done an HTML example or course or whatever that isn't related to Lightning Web Components, normally when you create an HTML file, you don't have these template tags. You'll have a setup kind of like this, HTML with a closing tag, and then you'd have like a head, oops, if I can spell, and you'd have a body. But in Lightning Web Components, we don't need all this. The template tag covers this for us, more or less, to keep it simple. You don't need these HTML tags that you would typically see in any other HTML that you would write for other tech stacks. Instead, we're going to just be developing within our template tags. And I should explain, since this is your, theoretically, first view into HTML at all, what these tags are, or elements is what we refer to what's inside the tags. These are just ways of structuring our document, again, to inform our browser what we're trying to render at any given time, what we are actually trying to produce for our users to view. And I'll explain this a little bit better in just a second. So we're going to delete this, right? And what this template tag is more or less going to inform Salesforce and our browser of is that, we have an HTML element that we would like to place in the page. There's a little more to it than that, but just pretend, for Lightning Web Component's sake, that the template tag is the equivalent of, in any other HTML document, the HTML tag, which is normally the starting tag for your HTML documents. Again, to let your browser know, hey, I'm reading some HTML. I need to figure out what's inside. Okay, so we've got a template tag. And inside this template tag, we want to tell our browser what we expect it to show our users. So as you can imagine, there are a lot of elements in HTML that you could create. And I'm kind of using the word element and tag interchangeably, and I should be a little bit more clear about that. A tag is an opening and closing greater than, I don't know what's I don't know what these would actually be called. I don't know the names for this other than less than or greater than sign. I'm sure somebody else knows that, and I should know that, but I don't. But the tags are denoted by these opening and closing signs here. What's inside the tag is our element, right? So in this case, our element is the entire LWC template. But within that template, we might have a paragraph that we want to output, right? And this is a common way. The P tag stands for paragraph, as you can see here. And this is a way for us to tell our browser, hey, we intend to make this block of text its own paragraph. So treat it like its own entity, kind of. So maybe I just want to say, hello world, like so, which is what most people start with, something like this. And we save it. And now what this is going to do is it's going to inform our browser when we place our Lightning Web Component in it to render this paragraph tag. Now there's a little extra that we have to do for Lightning Web Components to actually be able to place them into our Salesforce instance, so I'm going to do that really quick. We have to go over to this third file, our meta.xml file. We have to change this is exposed to true, and then we have to change our, I think it's our targets, yep. We have to add a targets tag in this metadata and a target of, we're going to just do a Lightning record page. Now what I'm doing right now is not super important, and you can already kind of see that in XML, which is, well, XML has these tags in it, kind of like our HTML. But in our XML here, we have to tell Salesforce where we are allowing our Lightning Web Component to reside, right? The is exposed is telling Salesforce that this is a Lightning Web Component that we can place on a page. It can be exposed. And then our targets is letting, the target setup here is letting Salesforce know what pages we are allowed to place this Lightning Web Component on. So we'll go over this in much more detail, this XML file, in later episodes. But for now, just know that we need to add these so that we can actually place our Lightning Web Component and view it somewhere. So cool. I am going to open up my Salesforce instance, and then we are going to actually place this on a record page together. All right, I've got Salesforce opened up. I'm going to go to some random object, probably account, because I have a tendency to just slap random garbage on accounts in this org. And if you have no idea what I'm doing, again, because you may not be someone who's ever looked at Salesforce before, I have a video showing you how to set up a brand new dev org. I'll link that above. You can go check it out. After you have a dev org, you're just going to you're going to basically be presented with something like this, but it's going to look very different. And you will have the ability to open up this little waffle icon, is what I like to call it, or the app launcher is what Salesforce likes to call it. And to get to the accounts, you can just type in accounts like so. And then it's going to take you to the accounts page. Once you're here, you can hit the new button to create a new account. You're not going to have these ridiculous record types. You're going to have, probably nothing to select here. You'll hit next. And then all you need to do is give it an account name. Like so. And you can see all my buttons are all messed up and weird looking, and that's just because I have completely destroyed this org with all my random experimentation. Okay, once you're here on an account record, you can click this gear icon and you can do Edit Page. And once you're on this Edit Page screen, we can look for whatever we called our component. LWC example. So in here, I'm just going to type in LWC, and we can see LWC example is here. And I am just going to drag and drop it. I meant to do it in here. But we can drag and drop it anywhere, just so you're aware. Your page layout is going to look very different from mine because, like I said, I've done a ton of random experimentation in my org, and everything is completely different from what yours is going to look like. But all that matters is once you get to this Lightning App Builder page for your account, you can see your LWC example or whatever you've named your LWC, and you can drag and drop it somewhere on your page. Doesn't matter where, just wherever you get one of those green lines, drag it, drop it, and you're good to go. So if we save this, and we head back to our page now, you can already see from the preview window that Hello World was popping up. So our browser, if we inspect this, you can right click on your page anywhere, and there's normally an inspect option in pretty much every browser these days. We can see that our Lightning Web Component, which is denoted by C-LWC example in our inspector here, has that paragraph tag Hello World, just like so. So now we've told our Salesforce instance, or in this case our Lightning record page, and our browser, most importantly, we want to display Hello World. And we did that. Now, if we come back here to our Lightning Web Component, and we go back to, I'm going to get rid of that one so it'll be less confusing. And we want to, do a handful of other things, whatever that is. Maybe we want to create a link to somewhere out in the world. Well, we would create what's called an A tag or an A element, which represents a hyperlink that can link out to somewhere else in the world, or in your Salesforce instance for that matter. And all you need to do is give it what's referred to as an href, which is just a link to somewhere else out in the world. And we'll give it a, we'll give it my YouTube channel link, since that's what we're doing right now. And in between the A tag, we will give it a value. So watch coding with the Force videos here, like so. So now we've got this A tag, and what we're telling the browser at this point is, hey, I want to display a link, which is what the A tag refers to, a hyperlink, and I want my hyperlink to go to this place in the internet, or on the World Wide Web. And I want, when my A tag displays, I don't want this ugly link. I want it to have this, this text here to display. So I'm going to save this, and we are going to go back to Salesforce World now. And if I refresh this page, I'm going to hard refresh it by doing Control-Shift-R to make sure nothing gets cached. We should now see that link pop up, and it did. And if you click it, it should take me to Coding with the Force. Cool, I'm promoting my channel on my channel. It's weird. Okay, cool. And so you can see how these tags help us define what we, what our browser shows our users. Now you might be asking yourself, how many element types are there out in the world? And there are tons, right? And there are even like pre-baked elements specifically for Lightning Web Components, which are much more important in terms of Lightning Web Components, right? So as far as HTML is concerned, you don't need to know every tag off the top of your head. There are plenty of lists on the internet. The most frequently used one, at least by me and I think the vast majority of other people, is W3 Schools. If you are wondering, what other tags exist and when to use them and why to use them, elements exist, they have, every single one listed within here, and you can read up about every single type of element that you could place within your HTML. I obviously don't have, you wouldn't want me to go through every single one of those. But more importantly, there is a Lightning Web Component library, which I should have already had pulled up, but I don't. And these Lightning Web Component libraries are what you're going to be using as a Lightning Web Component developer more often than not to declare to Salesforce and your web browser what you would like to display. And these are super useful because these allow you to easily generate complex components. For instance, maybe you want to make a map. Well, there is already a pre-built map component for you in Lightning Web Components. Or maybe you want to display an input field for people to type in text, right? Well, there is already a pre-built component for that in Lightning Web Components. So it's, and we're going to go over all of the, not every single one of them, but a large chunk of these throughout this course. But it is super important that you know that these are treated in Lightning Web Components in a very similar way to, basically in the exact same way as our regular normal HTML elements. So these are HTML, the paragraph tag and the A tag, these are regular HTML elements that you would see in any tech stack out in the world. But there are also these specific Lightning Web Component specific HTML elements like the Lightning Input element. And you can see it has attributes. So we are telling this Lightning input that we want it to be a type of text, which is an attribute of your element, kind of like the href is an attribute of our a tag or our a element. And the label is an attribute for this Lightning input as well. We could change this to say, enter something cool, like that. And now if we save this, and lower this and refresh this, we will see the enter something cool input element. And again, it's super important to know that this Lightning Web Component Blueprint library exists because, where did it go? Oh, here it is. Because it will save you an enormous amount of time as a developer, the Lightning Web Component developer in particular, because building things like cards or carousels or whatever else would normally take you a lot of time, and Salesforce has kind of pre-built these elements. And as you can see, if we were to inspect this page and take a look at that Lightning input element, right? So we've got that Lightning input element. We can select it by highlighting it and clicking that. You can see that even though all we did together was place this Lightning input element within here and give it a couple of attributes, what Salesforce has done behind the scenes when it took that element and interpreted it was a lot more. It created a div element, it created a label element, it created a slot, and then within here, we can kind of see this over here, it's created an input element within another div, and done quite a lot of work for us that we would have otherwise had to write ourselves. So, cool. Yeah, there's a lot more that I could show you. You might be wondering, Matt, this is great. Now I know how to set up HTML, but this is horribly ugly. Well, that's actually what we're going to talk about in the next episode, CSS, the way that we would style these elements or this HTML so that it actually looks presentable and doesn't look like a dumpster fire like we're looking at right now. So, cool. Even though it looks ugly now, we'll get to making it look a lot less ugly in the next video. So, hopefully this was useful. And again, just to kind of recap everything that we've gone through, when we are creating HTML, we are creating essentially the structure of a page that we are going to send to our web browser, and our web browser is going to be able to interpret what we have sent to it and build what our users see. And to kind of bring that point home a little bit more, if we didn't have these element tags that give our page structure, it would just look like this, right? And even to you, probably, none of this really makes sense, right? I mean, this is maybe not the greatest example, but without those element tags, we don't know what we're trying to build, even visually right now. So these element tags are what our browser interprets and allows it to figure out what it's supposed to actually show us. So again, HTML is a way for us to tell our browser what it should actually output. we tell it what it should actually output by creating a page and, setting it up with these tags that have elements within them. Paragraph tag, link tag. And more importantly, probably the most important thing for our Lightning Web Components is that there is a Lightning Web Component library where they have pre-built very useful components that will help speed up your development as a Lightning Web Component developer. And of course, I'll put the link to the Lightning Web Component Developer Library in the description, as well as the W3 Schools library of all of the normal HTML tags that are not Lightning Web Component specific. All right, cool. So hopefully this has helped kind of give you a generalized understanding of what HTML is. And on top of that, hopefully you now know how to create a Lightning Web Component, even though it's a simple one. And in the next episode, you and I are going to go over how to actually style this HTML to make it look nice instead of like garbage. So, yeah, I'll see you in the next episode.